The content of Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo, powered by 710 Radio, is intended for general information purposes only. It is not designed to provide listeners with specific and personal medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional services, or any advice. The programs are not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Individuals with health problems should always consult their healthcare provider for professional medical advice, medications, and or treatments. Kingdom of Healing also does not promote anyone's individual practices, programs, agendas, particular treatments, healthcare programs, providers, hospitals, and or medical centers. The views expressed by show host and their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Kingdom of Healing. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. We encourage you to always seek professional advice or care for any problems which you may have. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to the Kingdom of Healing or 710 Radio or the show hosts whose words and or opinions appear from or on this radio show.
Live on iHeartRadio, powered by 710 Radio. This is the Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo. So grab you a pen and a paper, kick your feet up, and get ready for some serious knowledge to be dropped on you. Because Kimberly Mateo is a nationally certified naturopath, master herbalist, iridologist, a nutritionist, and a holistic healer since 1977. She shares 35 plus years of knowledge and experience to listeners who are interested in learning and overcoming health challenges naturally. So without further delay, here is the host of your show, Kimberly Mateo.
Hi, welcome back to Kingdom of Healing. This is Kimberly Mateo. On the last show, I talked about enzymes and their role in taking care of abnormal cells and activity in the body. I would like to talk about a few products that are really amazing for historically bringing balance to the bloodstream, to the bowel, to the cell. So I'd like to cover those real well. And the first one that I'd like to talk about is a formula that's called the ESSIAC formula. And how that formula came around was it was a nurse in the early 1900s, more around the late 20s and 30s, and she had a patient that she was doing a physical on, and she had it was very, very evident that something at some point in this lady's life was horrific, and it was a her breasts looked very, very abnormal. She had breast cancer, and she was given a formula by some Indians, by actually an Indian medicine man, and this particular formula had 4 herbs in it, and it's burdock, sheep sorrel, slippery elm, and turkey rhubarb. And in talking with this lady, and she gave her the formula, she told her that this is what she consumed, and her breast cancer went away. What ended up happening was this nurse, Renee Cassay, and ESSIAC is Cassay spelled backwards.
Oh, okay.
Is where the name ESSIAC came from. It's her last name spelled backwards. And on kingdomofhealing.com, you can purchase this product. It's under T, and the T is spelled out. It's TEA. And the recommended dosage is 2 times a day. And it's really easy to just boil some water and pour yourself off a half a cup or a cup of water, and open and empty 3 of those capsules very first thing in the morning and before going to bed at night. And what happens is that way it's absorbed quickly into the body. The other thing is you just hit it with a spoon and it completely, totally dissolves. But what ended up happening is she was really helping people, and the word was spreading, and people were coming to her from all over. And the American physicians didn't like it at all.
Bet not.
Not at all. And so she literally, like the old saying, ran out of town on the end of a rail. That is what they did to her. And she ultimately went up into Canada. And in this small town where she settled in Canada, they were very aware of the work that she was doing as a healer with this combination tea that she made up, and had people just drinking. Actually, they were only drinking 3 ounces of it twice a day. And what the company has done is they have they've brewed the tea, they've dehydrated it, concentrated it, and each capsule is equal to an ounce of that tea. So when you do 3 capsules and you put it into water, you're at that, you got 3 ounces worth of the tea, of the concentration of the tea. Okay, you're just adding it into water. You can also just swallow it orally if you want. Just go ahead and swallow it. But the tea really has a very nondescript taste to it. It does not taste bad at all. And what happened up in Canada was the town where she went to, they ended up giving her literally the town gave her a building, a facility, which was, I believe it was a closed down hotel that had been seized for back taxes. So they gave her that building. And she turned it into a healing center. And people came to her from all over the world. And unfortunately, one of the doctors who was actually the most vicious towards her and making sure that she was constantly harassed and arrested and just her life was just made miserable at the helm of this guy, this particular doctor. And ironically enough, he ended up ultimately developing cancer. And she talked about how he showed up and he wanted help. And I don't know, he must have really made her life miserable because she refused.
Oh, really?
To help him.
Wow. Very interesting.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd help him. I'd help him. So, but she didn't. And, but she was given such a hard time in the United States for healing people with 4 lowly herbs. And, we did that on how all that big pharma got going and the 12,000 patents and all beginning with, crude oil that was the elixir. And that was really gaining momentum. And that's the way things were going, was down the pharmaceutical path. And so she wasn't allowed. She wasn't allowed to heal anybody. She was a nurse and she was using herbs. So the ET, the ESSEAC formula, by these four herbs work just beautifully together synergistically, and they work to inhibit and potentially destroy growths and tumors that are in the body. The formula also stimulates the production of antibodies. And it's a blood purifier as well with that burdock and the turkey rhubarb. Turkey rhubarb cleans the bowels very, very effectively. So sometimes I've had some people say that it takes their digestive tract a while to adjust to this combination, even at a small amount of 3 capsules twice a day, because it's so cleansing for the large intestine that you do not stray too far from home and buy the soft stuff. Don't skimp on your toilet paper. But and it really can be a problem, and that's that turkey rhubarb in it. So herbs have a funny way of, doing those kinds of things to your body. It really does. So it's amazing what you tote around.
Oh yeah.
When you start doing some cleansing, it's like, for real? Really? I've had people call me and say, I've gone to the bathroom like 10 times today. And it's like, really? And it's like, yes, elimination through my bowel. I've gone to the bathroom 10 times. And it's like, wow. Stop and think about that. If you had to go to the bathroom 10 times and you're eliminating copious amounts of debris, it really goes back to some of those shows where I talked about, when they take all the organs out and they weigh them. You can have a bowel that weighs 25 pounds, 45 pounds.
Wow.
What do you think's in that bowel that weighs 45 pounds? Wow. Well, that's why you're going to the bathroom for a week and you're on, 10 times a day. It can be. So it is amazing what this body puts up with. And we keep putting one foot in front of the other. So, and that's true. The organs are taken out and they're weighed during an autopsy. And it's actually, it's documented. They weigh all the organs, and there are some that weigh a lot. So, this particular product, this SEX, it's called ET, and that's E-TEA. It's also, it's used extensively with every single type of cancer. So it doesn't have an affinity to where it works really well with one type of cancer. And that again is, we look at the body as a whole. We don't look at someone as parts. We look at them as a whole person, and treating, well, I shouldn't use that word, in nourishing and given the nutrients that are available to the body by assisting the body in that manner, we help to overcome. Because after all, if you look at the word disease and you break that in half, it is a dis-ease within the body. It's a dis-ease. And that dis-ease comes from a lack of good food, sunlight, exercise, that you're not getting. That's the dis-ease side of it. You're not, your diet isn't plentiful enough in healthy, nourishing foods. You don't get enough sunlight. Okay, so just bad habits, things along that line. And there's genetics, but a lot of the research out there is genetics are not as responsible, as high of a percentage as a lot of people would like to believe. It's actually a very small percent. to carry a particular gene. So like, these people having parts of their bodies cut off because they carry a specific gene, the percentage of that is really very low. So it's really more important to take a look at your environment within, and the environment that you surround yourself in. That plays a bigger key factor on overcoming illnesses and challenges than genetically carrying a gene for a particular problem. So, this formula has been used not only with all types of cancer, but also with AIDS, chronic skin problems, diabetes mellitus, which is diabetes type 2, inflammatory conditions, including inflammatory conditions of the skin, leukemia, liver problems, lupus, multiple sclerosis, thyroid disorders, stomach ulcers, viruses. There's quite a list of degenerative diseases that this particular combination has helped to be extremely beneficial in playing a part in them overcoming and regaining their health. So the very first herb that's in that is burdock. And the primary detoxifying agents in both Chinese and Western herbalism, this is an herb that gets a lot of use, is what I mean to say, from the Chinese and Western herbalists. Burdock is especially useful in treating conditions related to chronic toxicity. It stimulates the elimination of waste via the colon, kidneys, and the skin. So a lot of times, problems with the skin is a reflection of what's going on inside of the body. Either an excess of toxins. Look at what the skin looks like when you're dehydrated. You can tell right away on dehydration just with the skin by pinching the skin. If it sticks together and it takes a few seconds to come apart and flatten back out, you're dehydrated. If you pinch it and it immediately lays back down, you're hydrated.
I'm good.
You're good. All right. He's over pinching himself. So the thing with that is, you pinch it and it stays pinched. You're really dehydrated. And if you wait until the point of where you're so thirsty that you stop what you're doing and it's like, I have to have something to drink. I am so thirsty. If you get yourself to that point, you're already into where you're doing a little damage to your kidneys.
Wow.
You absolutely should never, ever, ever get yourself to that point with needing to get some fluids in your body. Once those kidneys signal you that you're literally dehydrated, it's just not good. So the other thing is, like, sometimes people who have a lot of problems with their skin, that tells you that internally they need to detoxify. They need a detox program to carry those toxins and all that metabolic waste out of their body, to break it down. It acts like a solvent. It goes in and it cleans and it breaks up the mucus and it breaks a lot of that stuff loose and it gets the system clean. So that's, what we show from the outside with our skin is a reflection internally, what we have an excess of or a lack of. So, and always remember, the skin's your third kidney. That's where all the uric acid crystals are at. If you dry skin brush and you were to send that dead dry skin into a lab and have it tested, that all comes from your kidneys. It's uric acid. It's excreted out through the skin.
Interesting.
Okay? And the thing with that is that burdock, burdock helps to clean the bloodstream. It stimulates the production of mucus fluids. It reduces the toxins in the body, making it useful for treating a lot of allergies, respiratory problems. Burdock is also a really good source of fiber. It helps to absorb toxins from the digestive tract and the intestinal tract. Burdock is also used to lower, it's also used to cleanse out the lower bowel system. And it does speed up the transit time. It also helps to balance the intestinal flora. And there's been a lot of research on it, and research, has discovered that burdock exhibits antibacterial and antifungal activity. And with this ESSEOC formula being, Renee Cassé finding out about it over a woman who had healed herself of making the tea and taking care of the breast cancer that she was dealing with, that the thing with there's a lot said and written about fungus being, we hear that, we've heard through the years, how, cancer's a parasite or cancer's fungus. Well, fungus is kind of like a parasite. I mean, it's a nasty microorganism, it's alive, it's multiplying, and it's feeding off of you. So it's kind of the criteria of a parasite. It's got to have you in order for it to live. But so anyway, with burdock, this may be why this formula works so well even in conditions of candida, where you have that overgrowth of fungus in the body, and that overgrowth can occur due to too much sugar. Sugar feeds it. Sugar feeds everything. It's just like sugar feeds, left spin sugar feeds that those abnormal cells at a rate of 19 times faster than a healthy cell. So it's really it doesn't surprise me. Burdock it's really an amazing cleanser, detergent. You just think of it as an herbal detergent. It's going to go in there and it's going to clean things out.
I didn't
Are there what?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Are there any conditions that a person has that maybe they shouldn't take burdock?
Well, if you're able to take, yellow dock, burdock, I've in 38 years, I've never had anybody have a reaction.
Okay, I was just
asking.
asking.
I've personally, I've never had anybody have a reaction to it, and this is pretty much a staple. I mean, even before the company had it, I was buying the bulk material, the bulk dried herbs, organic certified, and blending it myself, and I was giving it away to people. And it works really, really well for candida, which is the overgrowth of fungus in the body. And it's also, you don't have enough good bacteria. It's a probiotic 11 thing again, where feed that gut, get that good bacteria in there. You do things in your life that break down the good bacteria, or you do things that cause that overgrowth of the bad bacteria, and doing antibiotics is a way to kill off not only the bad stuff, but it kills off the good stuff too. So whenever you go through a round of taking antibiotics, it's extremely important that you start getting into your system good probiotics.
Okay.
So the next thing is sheep sorrel, and this is a key ingredient. It's used to destroy cancer cells and cause mastocytized cells to retreat to the original tumor site. And so, just right there, when the mother tumor is sending off these cells that go to receptor sites, they feed off of that mother tumor, where it originated at. That's why it's so important from a holistic standpoint to not really, have that tumor removed. Work on killing that tumor. Work on doing things that are conducive to the tumor cannot survive anymore, and it dies, apoptosis. Because when that tumor is removed, and it didn't send the signal out that it died, and for the receptor little tumors that have gone out and they're growing in other places in the body, didn't get that message of apoptosis to die, and you remove that tumor, those tumors then become independent.
Ah, I got you.
And they're all growing. And they have this vascular system, this roadmap of veins that go from the mother tumor to wherever these cells went out and ended up in a particular receptor site or area of the body. So that's why it is so important that I do not understand why people can wait so long to make a decision to implement a program to start getting well. And on the other flip side of that with oncology is I've never understood why they'll diagnose you, and if you do choose to do allopathic treatment, you can't get in to see them for a month. It's like, really, this is serious. This is not something to wait a month, and a month of probably doing all the same things that you've been doing with fried foods, the wrong foods, carbonated beverages, acidic foods, pH out of balance. But allopathic field doesn't do anything on, kind of don't look at that, the pH balance. So the sheep sorrel promotes detoxification by purifying the blood, strengthening the liver functions, stimulating urination, expelling buildup like calcium deposits and such that can, usually always settle in the kidneys. And it's kind of like, how childbirth and passing kidney stones have always been kind of gone hand in hand, It also, sheep sorrel, kills parasites and worms. And I know worms are really a gross thing to talk about. But you know what? We worm our dogs. We worm our cats. And if, I had an aunt that she had a lot of trouble with her lungs. And she ended up having like these cyst type growths in her lungs. And she had gotten really, really sick, and she had seen an herbalist that actually put her on drinking, putting a couple drops of wintergreen, and wintergreen is usually an essential oil that you do not, ingest that. But this elderly herbalist had her ingesting wintergreen. And pretty soon, she started having situations where she would go into coughing attacks. And these small little hard things were coming up. So knowing someone who was a pathologist, she brought that to the pathologist that she knew. And she said, these things are really weird, and I've been coughing them up. And he says, well, interesting. I'm going to take these to the lab.
Right.
We're going to watch these, see what's going on with these. And he opened them up, and he gets back with her, and he says, do you have dogs? She said, yeah, I have dogs. I have Great Danes. He says, where do your Great Danes sleep? She says, on my bed. And he said, you need to really stop and think about this. You make your bed, but things, if they get messed up enough, do you really, you ultimately, you usually eventually end up with the bottom part of your bed spread. Is it the top part of your bed? And then at night, you're covered up with these. You have them up around your face. So entry through your facial orifices, through your ears, through your nose, through your eyes, through your mouth. She had parasites that were directly related to canines.
Wow.
And she went on an extremely aggressive organic diet, and this was in 1980. And she coughed a lot of those things up. She did a lot of mullein and lobelia. 2 mullein to 1 lobelia capsule 3 times a day. And that's a lot of lobelia. You wouldn't normally want to take more than 1 twice a day of lobelia. But because it it helps you to bring things back up from the stomach. So it is like along the line of like Ipecac.
I was going to say.
Ipecac is that Ipecac. And I've never used this stuff. It's like, yeah, I got lobelia.
Ipecac to make the yak.
Yes, that's what it is. So she purged and cleansed her lungs out, and her dogs were never allowed to sleep in her room again.
I don't blame that one bit.
It almost killed her. And
that's disgusting.
It is. So think twice about having your cat sleep on your head. Think twice about having your dog up underneath the covers with you and snuggling with them at night. They have their place, and it's not on your bed, and it's not up next to you. Sorry. But so sheep sorrel is known for its ability in the killing of parasites and worms. Sheep sorrel acts as an astringent, and it helps to check bleeding, internal bleeding in the system. It also has a mild laxative effect, particularly beneficial for chronic gastrointestinal disorders. Sheep sorrel is also extremely high in vitamin C. It's long been used for, staph, cancer, fevers, glandular swelling, hemorrhages, liver issues including jaundice, menstrual problems, especially those with heavy bleeding, skin diseases, tuberculosis, tumors, and ulcers. So that's sheep sorrel. The next one in this combination of the SCAC-T or ET is the fourth one is slippery elm. And slippery elm has been found as an effective remedy for irritation of the mucous membranes, stomach, intestines, and the urinary, all of the urinary tract. When slippery elm makes contact with inflamed surfaces, it's an extreme high mucilagenic herb, so it coats and it soothes irritated tissues, and it helps to protect them from injury from the irritants and the toxins that are coming out of the tissue that causes a localized inflammation because of all of the debris, metabolic debris from that. So it'll cause an inflammation. It is also it also has a high ability to absorb toxins from the bowel, and it helps to balance as well the intestinal flora, and it helps to reduce the bowel transit time, which is good because in this formula you've got burdock and the last one is turkey rhubarb, and they're really good with expediting things out of the system as quickly as possible. So it is something that helps to slow that transit time down a little bit, the slippery elm.
Gotcha.
And slippery elm's also used, and it's really beneficial if your body is extremely acidic. So slippery elm is something that helps with that biological terrain that I've talked about, that when your body is really acidic, it's not alkaline, that acid environment is what all of this debris loves to replicate itself in. And it's also acidic conditions, lead to inflammation. And I've told you before, like the itises, inflammation, that's an itis, your bronchitis, your gastritis, your, all your arthritis. Those are inflammatory conditions, and slippery elm is extremely beneficial when you're dealing with something like that. So slippery elm not only helps to work on helping to pH balance your biological terrain, it helps with, like I said, the inflammations, asthma, bronchitis. There's chronic cystitis, colitis, diverticulitis, gastroenteritis. Those are all inflammation problems. And then it's also, but it's nourishing as well. So people who are weak and debilitated, people that are convalescing, people that need to build strength. Slippery elm is extremely good for that. It has so many nutrients found in it that it literally can sustain life, and it actually did sustain. It helped some of the soldiers with George Washington when the Battle of Valley Forge, was it, that the troop got lost, and it was the wintertime, and they ended up, the trees that were all there were lots and lots of slippery elm trees. So they were melting the snow, and they were stripping the bark off of the slippery elm trees and cooking that down. And it ended up, it was kind of thick because it's mucilagenic. It has a thickness, a soothing to it. And they were drinking that. They didn't have anything to eat. And by the time, they got out of where they were at, they were all in perfect health. And they lived on slippery elm. So slippery elm is an extremely important, and we have it in bulk. We have it in single capsules. We have it in bulk. It is high nutrition. And it's something that, with all the juicing that I do, I go through, the containers of the slippery elm bulk because it's just so good for you. There's just so much nutrition in it. I always put at least a tablespoon in whatever I'm juicing. And my granddaughter loves it too. And my children, my grandchildren, they've all had slippery elm in any of the juicing that I make. So the last item, last herb that is in the SCEAC formula is the turkey rhubarb. And a lot of its effect is, it has a big effect as a laxative. And kind of related to if you drink way too much aloe vera juice. That's also a laxative. But when it's in small doses, the tannins that are found in the turkey rhubarb can produce actually a constipating effect. So I actually have more people that with this formula have a lot of cleansing that initially takes place the first 2, 3, 4 days, and then they're beyond that, and everything regulates itself out. So it's like with all these years of using herbs, it's like they have their own intelligence. You take them and they know exactly what to do. So turkey rhubarb can cleanse and evacuate, clean out the bowel, but then it also has where it can actually work the opposite in helping the transit time to slow down, because when you're sick, you don't want that transit time of elimination being really fast. You need time to absorb, slow that down, and absorb the nutrients. You don't want them passing that fast through the body, because that's malnutrition. If you're passing it so quick that you can't absorb the nutrients, it's like I've said on past shows, don't drink mineral oil. You can. It interferes with your absorption of the lining of the intestinal tract, and it inhibits the small intestines to be able to absorb those nutrients and get them delivered to the cell and carried out, throughout where they need to be. So in small doses, turkey rhubarb can actually produce a constipating effect to help relieve extreme watery or loose stools. Turkey rhubarb tannins have also been found to strengthen the upper digestive tract, inhibit digestive tract bleeding, inhibit nosebleeds. Turkey rhubarb also stimulates that peristaltic, the peristaltic action throughout the digestive tract. That's where it squeezes and moves on its own, and it moves everything ultimately out of the system. The turkey rhubarb, it stimulates the release of the bile as well from the gallbladder. It provides, it purifies the blood. It enhances the liver. It improves blood flow, reduces inflammation, takes care of fever, regulates excessive perspiration, takes care of swelling, edema, and abdominal distension, any kind of bloating and stuff. It's also used as a pain reliever. It has antibacterial activities and also against Staphylococcus aureus. Well, what's Staphylococcus aureus?
Right.
It's MRSA.
Oh, okay.
That's MRSA. So it's MRSA is when it's resistant to the drug that's used for Staphylococcus aureus. So that's with the S and the A. Is in the acronym MRSA. Okay, so turkey rhubarb, and that's some published studies, and those studies they go back 20 years ago.
Okay.
So, but I don't see anybody recommending, from an allopathic standpoint, I don't see any recommendations of turkey rhubarb, for MRSA. Turkey rhubarb, it also takes care of cold sores, and cold sores, it's a virus. It takes care of inflammation of hair follicles, so, especially in the beard. And sometimes a lot of that inflammation can be caused from yeast. And so turkey rhubarb has the ability to work with any problems of yeast buildup on the skin. Okay.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
It's also considered extremely beneficial for all venereal diseases, STDs. It's used for gout, headaches, inflammatory skin conditions, inflammation in the liver, which is jaundice, skin lesions. Turkey rhubarb has also been used with people with, as another herb when if you're dealing with tuberculosis. So that's the ESSEAC formula. That's also called E-TEA, and you can find that on the website kingdomofhealing.com. And there's another combination I want to go through, and it's called All Cell Detox. And how that came around was Dr. John Christopher would keep a notebook by the side of his bed. And sometimes throughout the middle of the night he would awaken, and he would just have this flood of herbs that would come over him. And if he had a particular, patient that wasn't responding as well as they should be with whatever it was that he was using with them, he would put it in prayer and keep it in prayer. And then a lot of times he would wake up and it would come to him what he needed to use. So he said he always kept a notepad and a pen next to on his nightstand next to his bed. Well, he'd been having a lot of problems with some specific conditions, and it just seemed to be so overwhelming with so many herbs to try to get someone in a position of wellness, that it was something that was really heavy on his heart, and he was doing a lot of praying about it. And he said that it was like wee hours in the morning. He's wide awake, and he's writing things down, and as he noticed, if he wrote all of this down and took a look at it, it hit him. This is what I've been praying for. This is what I need. This is the combination of herbs that are needed to take care of the problems that he was dealing with that were affecting a lot of people. So this particular formula, what it does is it detoxifies the body, but it also, at the same time of detoxifying, it strengthens. And if we build and strengthen the body on a regular basis, then what it does is it picks off toxins at a rate that the body can handle and process through the body. Sometimes you've got to be careful with being aggressive with some detoxifiers that can be pretty potent. Because if you're continually taking them in, and you're taking them in high amounts, the body doesn't have any choice but to give it up and release it. And when it gives it up and it releases it, sometimes it can be toxic.
Oh, wow.
To your system. So that's why, yes, we need to do cleanses, but we really need to use things that are, put together, and it'll say how many days that you do it. And it'll give you also suggestions on things that you should be doing alongside of that. And that's where juicing comes into effect, because it's not only a cleanser, it's also a mega builder. And if you're building tissue, the body, finally says, hey, yay, it's about time. You started giving me something that I can function a lot better, and now it's time to clean house. And so the toxins start getting picked off at small amounts. And what's nice is in this day and age of where, everybody has to work, and two people bringing in an income, there's really no room for people to be sick. Even though there's a lot of sick amongst us.
Oh, yes. Most
out
definitely.
there. We have a lot of sick amongst us. And so this particular formula, All Cell Detox, also helps with the kidneys and the liver. It improves digestion. It helps in the absorption of nutrients to combat nutritional deficiencies. So the herbs that are in here, and I'm going to go through them, there's a lot of wonderful, healers and cleansers and properties. I mean, black walnut, one of them, loaded with natural occurring iodine. Iodine is what's responsible for taking care of that metabolic waste efficiently in the body. So, black walnuts more so than English walnuts. Black walnuts have a high amount of natural occurring iodine in them. The other uses for special formula number 1 is it not only takes care of reducing inflammation and shrinking swollen tissue, it improves immunity to fight infection. It purifies the blood. It neutralizes acidity. It's a powerful cleanser, and it strengthens the abilities. The strengthening abilities help to reduce and inhibit the development of, masses such as cysts and fibroids, polyps, tumors, any kind of abnormal cell growths. It's used for numerous diseases. It's used for anemia. It's used for anorexia, arthritis, gallstones, gastritis, jaundice, any kind of gastrointestinal dysfunction, enlarged liver, respiratory infections, rheumatism, swollen glands, ulcers, and again, urinary tract. So black walnut, being one of the numerous ingredients in this formula, contains tannins that are astringent, and they help by toning and healing inflamed or damaged tissue. Black walnut astringent properties are beneficial with things like anemia, chronic diarrhea. The active constituents in black walnut, among the various tannins, are quinine compounds called juglone, Juglone. And those are used primarily responsible for the herb's anti-parasitic and anti-worms. Is just a nice way to put it. So that this particular product is it's been well researched, and it does kill parasites as well as yeast. There's Cascara sagrada in this, definitely a known laxative. It has the ability to stimulate the peristaltic action, the squeezing action that takes place on moving everything through the bowel. Cascara also takes care of gallstones, intestinal parasites, takes care of healing skin problems, and it stimulates a sluggish gallbladder to function better. There's catnip in this, which has sedative effects on the digestive tract and the nervous system. Takes care of colic, headaches, a variety of different digestive problems. It's also been found to, catnip helps to stimulate poor appetite. So when people are sick and they don't really want to eat, catnip is something that's really good to be given to help to stimulate that digestion again. It's also an antispasmodic, and it's used really well for chronic coughing and cramping. There's chickweed in the formula, and that gives a lot of fiber. Chickweed also helps to break down fat in the body, and it's also used to help throughout the digestional tract to bring balance as well, and to provide bulk to the intestinal tract. Chickweed also works with reducing inflammation. It's a blood purifier, anti-inflammatory as well. Dandelion's wonderful. Dandelion is the perfect food for the perfect balance of sodium and potassium within the cell. And so it helps with filtering out toxins. It purifies the blood. It also has an enzyme-like properties that assist cell metabolism and increases bile secretion in the liver. There's research that shows that dandelion is also in the anti-inflammatory category. So it's really good for swollen liver, swollen spleen. It absorbs toxins in the digestive tract. It also helps, it's also really good for the spleen as well as the liver. It's used for age spots, eczema, heartburn, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, high blood pressure, heart weakness. The next one is fenugreek. And fenugreek increases the mucus fluids, and it helps to remove allergens and toxins from the respiratory tract. Fenugreek, what it does is it literally liquefies mucus in the body so that you can bring that up. So it's extremely beneficial in cleaning hardened mucus that's been long-standing in the body. It helps to clean that out. Gentian, it's a really bitter substance. So it's really good for strengthening back up the digestive tract because of its bitter properties. It also helps to improve the absorption of B12 and iron. And it's very good since it's a bitter, it has a really positive effect on the healing of the liver. The next one is golden seal, which is antibacterial. It's also an astringent. It's also vasculoconstricting, so it tightens the blood vessels. Golden seal also helps with balancing blood sugar. If it's too high, it brings it down into normal. Regulates liver and spleen functions. And it's also used really well for the inflammation of colitis and gastroenteritis. Irish moss. That's another one like the black walnut that's high in natural occurring iodine. Black moss also has, or not black moss, it's black walnut is high in iodine. Irish moss is also extremely high in iodine. And it's another one of those foods that help to feed and regulate the thyroid. It is good for ulcer conditions throughout the body. It is beneficial for as an anti-coagulant. So Irish moss works well as a natural occurring blood thinner instead of rat poison. There's myrrh in this, and myrrh, hey, healer, wonderful for infection and sores, reduces pain and inflammation, antimicrobial, and antiseptic, astringent. There's been a lot of research in America and China on myrrh, and they've got it documented on its antibacterial properties. Then yellow dock, related to burdock, like the burdock that's in the ET. Yellow dock is rich in ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. It's really high in vitamin A. Dandelion is high in vitamin A as well. It's high in iron. All of your docks, your yellow dock, burdock, those are naturally high in iron. It's also really high in calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, selenium, and it's very beneficial. It's used to help improve iron levels with pregnant women, and it also takes care of inflammation and swelling. So it has very mild laxative properties to it. And yellow dock on its own is safe to do during pregnancy, but all cell detox is not. With the combination of the herbs is not something that you can take during pregnancy. Okay, so yellow dock can be by itself, but not in the combination of those herbs. So we're almost out of time, so I want to go through some different ways to use essential oils to freshen up and clean your house. We're into spring. Everything's blooming. We're seeing, there's more spiders, there's more bugs out there flying around and flying in your house, and time for some spring cleaning around the house. So some of the essential oils, and on kingdomofhealing.com, I'd really encourage you to go there and to look through the just what's done with the company as far as purity and quality. And the essential oil line has just been, we've got some bigger sizes and more of them available, and some of those things to have in like a little cleaning and emergency kit for the house would to have on hand, peppermint oil, lemon oil, grapefruit, tea tree oil, the eucalyptus oil, pine needle. Pine needle smells really good. Lavender as well. And so if you want to put together something to keep spiders and rodents away from your house, they cannot stand the smell of peppermint. So if you take 10 to 15 drops of peppermint and put that into like an 8-ounce bottle of water and just keep shaking it up, and spray that in all the cracks and the gaps where spiders and rodents enter a home. And so for extra protection, you can add 1 or 2 drops of peppermint oil on a cotton ball and leave it in a common entrance place, such as your doorways and the basement windows and stuff. Just saturate a cotton ball and do that with peppermint oil, and that keeps away the spiders and rodents. Keep your shower curtains clean and clean in the house. Add tea tree oil to that. Take 4 drops of eucalyptus oil and 4 drops of tea tree oil, it's also called melaleuca. Put that into warm water and spray down like your shower curtain, and it kills it. And then don't rinse it. You could spray it down, clean it, and then once you've got that cleaned, spray it down again, and it inhibits mold from growing there.
Interesting.
Okay, so we've got that tea tree oil. Freshen up your car. You can put some whatever oils you like. Some lavender. Rose oil is pretty expensive to be spraying around in your car. I mean, it's like $165 for a very small amount. But you need to remember with the essential oils that, and these are authentic essential oils, and there's no adulteration to them. They're not thinned down with vegetable oils that don't have a smell. They're not enhanced with their fragrances with synthetic oils, which are really over the top and very strong and pungent in the way that they smell. I mean, almost overpowering. And so there's none of that in any of these. And remember, it takes 1,000 pounds, which is a half a ton, to 7,500. That's what I want to say. 7,500 pounds, which is 3.5 tons, a little more than 3.5 tons of raw material. You need that amount of raw material, depending upon what it is, in order to come up with 1 gallon. Not 1 gallon. 1 pound. 1 pound of oil. You need 1,000 to 7,500 pounds of raw material to be distilled to end up giving enough oil that would give you 1 pound worth of oil. So when you're wondering why they're so expensive, that's why. And another reason, if you're wondering why are they so expensive, when there are other things out there that are, why should I pay this when I can pay $5 for 5 milliliters, a teaspoon, 20 drops. It's because they've been cut, they've been diluted, they've added synthetic, that particular synthetic smell into it, so that you have a little bit of the fingerprint of what that oil was at one time until it was diluted down. But the synthetic scents that will be put in there, you can take the cap off and go, wow, this smells really good. This must be the real thing. And how many people are going to go buy your essential oils and send them off and have somebody test them? One of the things is that the lab where you're buying products through kingdomofhealing.com has a lab that's so sophisticated that one of the shows, or a couple of the shows, I thought it was like 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It's 20. It's actually 20. Went back and looked it up. It's 1 drop of a toxin can be detected in the equivalent of 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so you know what? That's why my family uses their herbs, and that's why they're the only herbs that I recommend to people. For little ones don't want to go to sleep, and, now that we've got, it getting dark a little later, and, you want to kind of keep them on somewhat of a schedule, the little ones. You might want to just take some lavender and put that in a spray bottle of water and shake that up and spray down the pillows and the top of their sheets with that, so that when they get to bed, they're wanting, before you know it, they fall asleep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that with my bed, actually.
Yeah, try it with your bed. Controlling flies. Everybody's wanting to open their windows up, and there's this teeny tiny little hole in the screen. That it's amazing what gets through. How do they see that one tiny little hole in the screen?
Right.
At all the screens around your house, they all found that one that had a little tiny hole. Before you know it, it's like, geez, where are all these flies coming from? Peppermint again. 25 drops of peppermint or lavender essential oil in a spray bottle. Spray down your windows, the doors. Spray down the dining room tables. Spray down the picnic table. All the flies that want to come and hang out with you when you're trying to eat outside. do some peppermint. My Uncle Yano, Sebastiano, he used to always, it was always so funny when I was little because whenever there was cookouts going on, he would always set little paper plates out there for the flies. And he would always do watermelon. And it was really weird because, yeah, you know, the flies like your watermelon. Love the watermelon. And so if there's enough of them there putting off their scent and making their noise that the rest of them can pick up on, then they're out there. They're all hanging out there. You know, that's where they're going and landing. So, a good way to, preserve your leather coats and shoes is to, and actually just spray down, your sofas. You know, you can do water with some lemon in it or grapefruit, but you know, if you'll soak a cloth in some lemon essential oil, it's a really good way to preserve the color of your leather, to condition it, and to clean it. And it works as a natural preservative. Camping, camping out outside, those pesky mosquitoes. You can do make up your own bug spray, and I talked about this last year. Yeah, but that was a lot of shows ago, and here we are with spring, and flies are everywhere, and the mosquitoes are going to be here before we know it, hatching, and coming to life. So what you can do is you can make your own bug spray, and one that works really well is 1 drop of lemongrass, a drop of citronella, a drop of eucalyptus. And if you take one drop of each and you mix that with 1 teaspoon of coconut oil, you can rub that on the skin. So that's just 1 drop each. And just remember, this stuff is so potent, 50 to 70 times stronger than the herb in its natural state. So 1 drop of lemon, 1 drop of citronella, 1 drop of eucalyptus in a teaspoon of coconut oil. Rub that down, rub it on the body. Or what you can do is you can take 8 ounces of water, and you can put in that 20 drops of each. And spray that. Shake it up, spray it on the body, spray it on the hair, spray it around, on the top of the tennis shoes and around the ankles, and spray it on your legs. So that's to keep the mosquitoes away. Anytime you're dealing with mold situations, tea tree oil is wonderful for that. If you're wanting to clean out the refrigerator and do some cleaning in the kitchen, making up water with grapefruit or lime or lemongrass in it is really good to do as a final wipe down and stuff on counters and refrigerator, and it makes the house smell really, really, really good. So add it in with baking soda and water, a couple of drops. You can do baking soda, a third of a cup, half a cup of baking soda, a third of a cup of vinegar, and 5 drops of bergamot or orange, and or lime as well. And scrub your stainless steel with this. It really cleans up the stainless steel really, really nice. Half a cup of baking soda, 1/3 cup of vinegar, and then you can do 5 drops of bergamot, orange, or lime, and clean that. Cleans it up really, really well, and then rinse it with warm water. So that's enough for today, and everyone have a really great week, and be back next week. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.